Sometimes a Great Notion by Kesey. This book was, honestly, it's one of the best books I've ever read. And it made me feel things and think about things that were very unique. There's something very special about this book. And I think for me, what was special about the book was that it was very interesting that I didn't realize this until I was reflecting afterwards, but there's these two characters, and they're very much opposites. One is this tough guy who seems to have he's just extremely self-confident, extremely athletic, very red-blooded American kind of guy. And then there's his brother who is from another mom and who is very bookish, not athletic, and it talks in big words. And this brother that is the bookish one, he comes home and he really wants revenge on his older brother, because this is a spoiler, but his older brother had sex with his mom. So the mom had married into the family, and it wasn't like an incestual thing, but because they had different moms with the same dad. And so this younger brother, who's kind of bookish, and comes home and he wants to get revenge on his older brother because his mom had killed herself. He blames this older brother, and really at the beginning you are feeling for this younger brother, and you are really, really rooting for him to win. And then you get more into everybody's lives, and you realize the complications that the older brother has, the fact that he's in this logging operation, the entire town is out to get him, and a series of events essentially happens, and his best friend dies. His dad is mortally wounded in a logging accident. Both of those things happen, and it's kind of his fault in a way. He can't save his friend. His friend dies. His dad is mortally wounded. This guy kills himself and says that it's his fault. And then the younger brother has sex with his wife. Now, all of these things come to a head at the same time, and by this time you're fully immersed in the book, fully immersed in all of the characters, and you're fully rooting for this older brother. His name is Hank Stamper, who at first you're completely against him. You're like, this guy's a jerk, he's just too big, and you're on the side of everybody else. This guy needs to go down. And then once he's down, and you realize that he is a vulnerable human being, you're completely hooked and on his side, and you don't really understand what happened, when it happened. It happened before all of these things happened to him. You were completely on his side, and these things just, they kind of put the icing on the cake. But like, what I think makes a great writer is that they start to take you in, and then by the time the next thing you know, you're completely immersed in some kind of situation, or like in this case, I'm feeling for the big brother, where at first I was like, there's no way I would ever feel for this guy. Like, personally, this guy he would be like what nowadays would be like an extremely like right-wing, like he's kind of racist. He's kind of like, he's this guy that he like everybody else is picketing and striking, and he's still working. And like, he's this guy that I don't think I would really feel for in the normal sense. But after you understand him a little bit deeper, you realize he's not working for the money per se. He's working because he loves to cut down big trees. He loves to take down that big tree. And he's kind of like that big tree. He's like, everybody likes to see the big tree fall. And he's kind of like that big tree that ends up falling, and everybody looks and everybody pauses. And so this is kind of a story about the little guy taking down the big guy, but then you end up taking the side of the big guy when at first you were thinking you were going to take the side of the little guy. And the characters are extremely deep in this book. Like, you really get to explore everything about these characters. It's the way that the book is written is very I've read many books like this, so it wasn't shocking to me, but I think that it would be to some people, and it's worth noting. I just like the way that it's written, but a lot of people may have trouble with it. What ends up happening is you're in a scene and you're seeing it from the first person, from one person's point of view, and then it switches without telling you that it's from somebody else's point of view, the same scene. But you can tell based on the words that are used. Like, the little brother is bookish, so he uses big words. And then the big brother is kind of visceral, so he always uses like senses and kind of this backcountry type of lingo in Oregon. So that's very interesting. And so I would say that this is one of my favorite books ever. It's very challenging to get into, but once you're into it, once you make the investment in the 30 hours of audiobook or whatever kind of extremely long length of book it is, it's worth it. Once you get in, you get hooked, and you're completely immersed in this world. And it makes you feel things and think things that you didn't originally think that you would be able to feel or think. And so I'm going to give this book definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. But be warned, it's a little bit of a monster. But once you get into it, for me, it was like once I was in it, and it's fantastic.